We'll be talking to Ruth Money, who has been appointed, just this month. Yeah, it was 10th of February was the announcement, I think, a couple of weeks ago, as New Zealand's Chief Victims Advisor. Now, that announcement is obviously, I assume, a paid advisory role from under the Justice Minister or Ministry. Paul Goldsmith said of the appointment that Ms. Money is already an outspoken and energetic victims advocate with a proven track record of driving change. She's been a full-time volunteer since 2012 following a successful business career, and we've had her on the show before, and has extensive experience across the many and varied components of the justice system. She is committed to the view that society can and must do better for victims. The advice provided by Ruth Money over the next 2 years will be essential in ensuring there are 20,000 fewer victims of violent crime by 2029. I don't know if Ruth can do that, but we'll just see. She might be a bit of a miracle worker, while keeping the needs of victims at the forefront of our justice system. And Ruth replaces Dr. Kim McGregor in that role of Chief Victims Advisor, who was apparently in that role for the previous 9 years. I can't remember seeing her on anything over the last 9 years, but certainly Ruth Money is likely to be, given the personality, much more prominent, and she joins us now. Ruth, welcome to the show. Lovely to have you on again. Listen, first of all, congratulations on the job. Did you seek it, or were you shoulder tapped?
Thank you for having me, and thank you for your work in the victim space. I can't do it all myself. I was kind of shoulder tapped, if I'm honest. Yes.
Yeah, well, good on you. I mean, and you're the right person to do it. We've talked before, you and I, and you clearly have a passion in this area, and you wouldn't have got the job unless you're clearly very, very competent. Listen, you won't be aware of this, but the reason I've asked you onto the show today is because on Tuesday I interviewed the husband of someone who was killed in a motor accident. I think my producer would have probably introduced that idea to you. Ruth?
I did. I've actually listened to Michael's story, or Michael's family story. Yeah.
Okay. His story is tragic, but it's the way he was treated once he entered our system and after his wife had been killed that only exacerbated in many ways the issues that he was facing. Ruth, what are we going to do for the Michaels of this world?
Yes. So first of all, I want to honour Michael's wife and the other people that we lost, and the very poor injured person who is still with us, but as a result of that terrible incident, their life will be, or the trajectory of their life will forever be changed. And that's why I do what I do. I have volunteered in this space for 13 years, and I will continue to push and shove and scream to ensure that we deliver services that are better, significantly better, because it is, I've been an outspoken and will continue to be outspoken on this point, and that is that we, at the moment, the system hurts the victims, and often the hurt from the system can be more significant than the event itself, particularly when I'm dealing with sexual violence victims, not necessarily when there is a accident or a deliberate death, a criminal death, but certainly with sexual violence we have, many brave survivors say the court experience, the experience to get to court, the lack of support was worse than the event itself. And that just hurts my heart, which is why we have to change this significantly.
Okay. Now, so you have an advocacy role, I get that. Your job is to provide independent advice about victim issues and how to improve the system as such. I'm interested though, Ruth, do you have a secretariat? Do you have staff that work for you?
I have one policy advisor, and And at the moment, I am busy. I obviously have lots of knowledge from the front line, so I'm busy meeting and greet. I've only had my bum on the seat, so to speak, for 3 weeks, perhaps. So I'm busy meeting and greeting people, asking lots of questions as to, well, hey, this is my experience, so why is it like that? And have you got a good reason? And, all of those dumb questions that you get to ask in the beginning, to then map out a work program. There is a group within the sector team at Justice who do have a victim budget and have work programs. So I'm busy reviewing them and understanding what's going on at the moment versus where I want us to be and where we need to be, so that I can give the Minister very, really frank, very realistic and evidence-based advice to hurry the heck up and improve things for victims.
I can't imagine you, let's be honest about it, getting appointed to this job without them wanting to take some issue, because they know your personality and they know what you've been saying over previous years. So, that must accord with particularly the Minister of Justice's view if he wants to see a higher profile in this particular area. And I think it was an election promise. Indeed, it's in the coalition agreement somewhere as well. But I'm interested in so I don't imagine you're going to have too much political pushback necessarily from this coalition government, but certainly within the system, better than anybody, that there seems to be a view that, and within the legal system in particular, that the rights of the criminal have a precedent over the rights of the victim, and that's demonstrated through the court system on a daily basis. Do you intend to address that as well?
Yeah, I've been very vocal. If we call my kind of independent role my previous life, I have been very vocal and will continue to be vocal, and have already raised it, in that victims are not parties to the proceeding. It is Crown versus the drunk driver or the person who harmed or allegedly harmed. It's the police versus the person who did the harming. And so the victim, their family, their supporters are left out of the proceedings. And that is incredibly problematic I feel left out. No one in the system is responsible for communicating with me. The police think that the victim support worker did it. The victim support worker thinks that the court victim advisor did it. The court victim advisor thinks that the police did it. And in legislation, there's no one that is accountable. So there's a lot of finger pointing in cases, but there is no accountability. So that's something that I really want to, will be absolutely giving advice to change. And the same with, there is a lot of duplication that doesn't need to be there, that all that does is employ people in roles that we could redeploy the money and the people into a more efficient role. But more importantly for me, those two people doing that job, that duplicated role, just harms the victim. The victim doesn't want to talk about the bail application to two different people, for example. They really just want their person, right? They want their advocate, their navigator, whatever we're going to call it. They just want to have one conversation.
The Michael Brooks case was a classic case this week, where they don't know anything until they turn up and then get a surprise and a shock as a consequence. It's the lack of sensitivity that gets me, Ruth, because if it's not, and it's not just to systems, it's to many of the individuals who should be exhibiting that sensitivity, do not seem to be exhibiting it at all. Why is that?
I think there's lots of reasons. People become desensitised. People don't walk with empathy in the victim's shoes. Their role, they're not accountable to be aware of the victim's part of it. Their role is to bring the offender or investigate the offender or alleged offender. So that, again, it comes back to me being very clear from an advice and